The IRS blew up conservative groups when it targeted Tea Party, tax-exempt Tea Party organizations back in 2010 before the election. But with new revelations from WikiLeaks exposing more pay-to-play, why isn't the IRS investigating the Clinton Foundation? Tom Fenton is the president of Judicial Watch. He joins us right now. Tom, good morning to you.
Good morning.
One of the things we learned from WikiLeaks was Doug Band, who is Bill Clinton's body man, put out a 12-page memo talking about the Clinton Foundation and Teneo and stuff like that, and made it pretty clear that the Clinton Foundation was pretty much just a pay-for-play way for the Clintons to personally get rich. Why hasn't the IRS gone after the Clinton Foundation?
Well, that's a good question. There's no public information that's taken place. But there is public information. The Justice Department is protecting the Clinton Foundation. There's a real scandal going on right now, which is the Clinton Foundation and Hillary Clinton are being protected by the Justice Department and the FBI from any serious investigation. FBI agents were told to stand down. The Justice Department denied access to emails and subpoenas and grand jury opportunities and witness interviews by the Justice Department. So you've got interference in the Clinton Foundation investigation. Right now there's a cover-up going on within the Obama Justice Department and the FBI about what the Clinton Foundation's been up to on these pay-to-play scams, which have been confirmed essentially by WikiLeaks, and we've been exposing for almost a year at Judicial Watch.
Sure. Apparently, FBI agents, field agents, are going to their bosses, hey, we got plenty of stuff on the Clinton Foundation, let us loose, let's go after it. And the Department of Justice is saying, no, just hold your horses, there's no there. And so the people over at the FBI are getting steamed about that. But this is reminiscent of back in 2010 when the IRS teamed up with the Department of Justice to tamp down these conservative groups, isn't it?
That's an underreported aspect of the IRS scandal, which is the Justice Department reached out to the IRS and said, how is it we can prosecute the very groups you're suppressing? And Lois Lerner and the IRS sent the FBI every IRS file on 501c4 groups, these tax-exempt groups, and the FBI improperly had those files and had to turn them over. They wanted to go after donors.
Sure.
They were thinking of creative ways to put Obama's opponents in jail, and this is the same Justice Department that is looking the other way on the Clinton Foundation.
Why do you think they're doing that?
Because they're terribly politicized, and they want to use the tools of the Justice Department to punish enemies and reward friends. The conservative movement, Tea Party groups are seen as enemies, and the Hillary Clinton, obviously, the nominee for the Democratic Party for president, is seen as a friend, and they're going to protect her and subvert the rule of law to do so.
Sad commentary, what's going on down in Washington, D.C. Tom, thank you very much for joining us on this Tuesday.
You're welcome, Steve.
7 days from the election, the Clinton campaign is bringing back the 1964 anti-nuclear war campaign ad with this little daisy all grown up and backing Hillary Clinton.
This was me in 1964. The fear of nuclear war that we had as children, I never thought our children would ever have to deal with that again. And to see that coming forward in this election is really scary.
No Daisy, grown-up woman. But for those concerned about Donald Trump having his hands on the nuclear codes, shouldn't there be concern over how Hillary Clinton has handled classified information and the follow-up to a Benghazi investigation? Fox News contributor Pete Hegseth joins us right now, who served in Iraq and Afghanistan. Hey, Pete, an effective ad to get people nervous about Donald Trump. Is it accurate?
It's not accurate. I mean, obviously, their polling tells them that people are feeling that way. I talk to grassroots groups of conservatives and independents all the time. There are those that say, hey, what will Donald Trump do in a nuclear situation? At the end of the day, they said the same thing about Ronald Reagan. They said he was unpredictable. They said he was too pro-American.
Right.
They said he'd be rash. And so it's a bomb they're going to throw to try to knock people off of their support, potentially, of Donald Trump. But there's nothing in his history. He's campaigning to win. He's throwing bombs in a Twitter sense, in a political sense, to beat his opponent, but there's nothing about his background as a business leader or otherwise that would lead anyone to believe that he would not do anything but things that are prudent when it comes to high-pressure situations.
So, Pete, what you're saying is you notice how thin-skinned he could be with the Paul Ryans of the world, with the Ted Cruzes of the world, with the Hillary Clintons of the world. But you're saying don't look at his relationships. Look at how he does in business. Has he thrown business deals in the street because he's so-called thin-skinned or irrational?
Sure. I mean, there have been moments in this campaign where we've all had pause. But if you look at his business record, you look at those who spend time with him when he is briefed on these critical issues. They say he's thoughtful, he internalizes it, he goes through a decision-making process. Ultimately, what do you want, though, in the contrast? Do you want a slightly unpredictable patriot in Donald Trump, or do you want the corrosive and calculated corruption of Hillary Clinton, who we know has ties to business interests around the globe that are not focused on America? So he doesn't have his finger in the Oval Office on a nuclear code that he can just push. This is a guy who's going to go through a process with the trappings of the office, and I think would take it very, very seriously.
And tactically, though, it's a good move for her because she has about a 20-point advantage on who's be more secure when it comes to putting their hand on the nuclear button. Does it bother you at all, Pete, that he says he knows more than most generals?
No, because I think, again, that's the way Donald Trump speaks. He's talking about the gut. He's talking about the fact that he says, listen, I'm going to fight to win. I'm going to untie the hands. I'm going to get rid of political correctness. That's what he's talking about, not that I have more tactical sense than generals. I think he'll listen to the generals, but he'll also give them the tools they need to beat our enemies.
All right, Pete, thanks so much. Look forward to seeing you back here in the studio.
You got it.
All right, FBI Director James Comey under fire, I guess, from all sides for notifying Congress about newly discovered emails to the tune of 650,000 that may be relevant in the case of Hillary Clinton's private server.
Some say that Comey's timing is negligent. Others call it criminal.
Fox News senior judicial analyst Judge Ann Napolitano here to sort it all out. All right, so Judge, Harry Reid, who famously had a friend who knew that Mitt Romney never paid taxes for 10 years. Of course, afterwards he said, okay, I made that up, but it worked. Now he's saying that James Comey violated the Hatch Act.
All right, the Hatch Act is a 1939 federal statute which prohibits federal employees, everybody who works for the federal government, except the president and the vice president, from overt political activity while they're in office using federal assets. So, example, if Chuck Schumer, the senior senator from New York, wants to ask you to contribute to his campaign, he can't call you from his Senate office. He's got to go somewhere else.
Got to go outside.
He can't use federal assets to aid a political cause. So Senator Reid, and I've been very critical of Director Comey. We can get into that later if you want. But Senator Reid's criticism is way, way over the top. This in no way implicates the Hatch Act. This is Jim Comey doing what he believes is his job. If there is an incidental effect on politics, well, there's an incidental effect on politics to everything the government does.
Like, for example, the president showing up in Florida on federal money on a federal plane to campaign for Hillary Clinton. Is that okay?
Okay, it is, because when the Hatch Act was making its way through Congress, FDR, who was president, said, this can't affect me. You got to put an exception in for me. And all presidents do this, but the political party to which the president belongs reimburses the government for the use of the plane and whatever other expenses are attendant upon that. So in my view, what Director Comey did, and a lot of us across the political spectrum have been saying this, was to give the public a snapshot of where this investigation was at the time, which is prohibited by Department of Justice regulations and FBI regulations because it can be a misleading snapshot. His job is not to answer to the public, and it's not to answer to the Congress. It's to gather facts, give them to the Justice Department, let them decide what to do with it.
Now, Judge, these emails came out several weeks ago. Did the FBI wait too long to disclose this?
You know, I'm smiling because we all have sources, and we're driving our sources crazy to get information. That's one of the pieces of the puzzle that we haven't been able to figure out as to why it took a month to get to Comey's desk. When I say it is the fact that inside that laptop are all these emails that Huma Abedin forwarded to herself. Some probably originated with Hillary Clinton. A lot of them probably do not have anything to do with it. They finally got the search warrant on Sunday night, 2 days ago. In order to get the search warrant, they didn't say we're investigating Hillary Clinton. They said we're investigating Huma Abedin because we think she may have lied to us about the existence of this. We also think she may have lied under oath in a deposition in a civil case. So, Judge, let us go in and read these emails, and the judge agreed.
And they never would have found any of this out if it weren't for her husband.
Thank you, Anthony.
I know we're all smiling about that because of the perversity of his behavior, but you're right.
Okay. Meanwhile, Bill Clinton is somebody that really, and the Clinton camp should really be looking in the mirror before they condemn those on the Trump side for coming out and and praising James Comey. For example, Bill Clinton in 1992 talked about the revelations that Special Prosecutor Walsh came forward with, the fact that Bush 41 might have had an additional involvement in Iran-Contra. Right before the election, this revelation came out. Listen to what Bill Clinton said.
Today's disclosure that President Bush knew and approved of the arms for hostages deal with Iran not only directly contradicts the president's claims, it diminishes the credibility of the presidency. It raises the question, first and most importantly, about whether he's told the truth in this campaign and for the last 5 years.
Unprecedented?
Well, the indictment of Caspar Weinberger in that year, right before Election Day, was a profound injustice and violation of a variety of federal regulations, but the independent counsel, former federal judge Walsh, just decided to go on his own, and there was no stopping him. I happen to agree with what Clinton said there. He's obviously not saying the same thing now about his wife, but it is wrong for law enforcement to do something within 60 days of election with the intent of affecting the outcome.
Oh, if only we didn't have that videotape. All right, Judge, thank you very much.
All the best, guys.
The president believes that Director Comey is a man of integrity, he's a man of principle, and he's a man of good character. These same character traits are what led a strong majority of Democratic and Republican senators to confirm him to this job. These are the traits that led the president to select him to be the director of the FBI.
Well, after FBI Director James Comey recommended against indicting Hillary Clinton, or charges, that is to say, and considered the investigation into her email over back in July, he was reportedly overwhelmed with resignation requests and regret. This according to a close source of Comey's who spoke to writer Ed Klein, who joins us right now live. His book is called Guilty as Sin. Ed, nice to have you.
Great to be here.
Okay. So ever since July, apparently the rank-and-file FBI agents were really steamed at him, and inside the FBI, the atmosphere is toxic.
When James Comey would walk down the hallways of the FBI and say good morning,
right,
people wouldn't talk back to him. That's how bad things had been in the FBI. There's a sense that he disgraced the institution and brought it down. And he has been suffering because this is a guy who is an evangelical Catholic who gets down on his knees every night and prays to God. He has this sense of moral rectitude. He thinks that he knows what's right, and it put him in a direction that actually was a disaster for him and the institution.
So if he had a do-over, would he have suggested charges?
I think he would have, because according to my sources, he and his wife, Patrice, who are very, very close, not only in their marriage, but in his professional life, she has been telling him, Jim, you did the wrong thing. You've got to redeem yourself somehow. So when he learned about the emails in Anthony Weiner's laptop, he jumped at the chance to reopen this case.
Because two things. One, apparently he had been talking to his wife, Patrice, according to your report, that he was depressed that so many resignation letters from FBI agents were stacking up on his desk, but also the harm he felt that was being done to the FBI.
That's right. Now, he hasn't signed these resignation letters because he's hoping that he can undo the damage. You know, I think one of the interesting things here is that the President of the United States has so politicized the Justice Department that Loretta Lynch has been interfering in this entire investigation from the very, very beginning, and has given Comey a hard time at every step of the way because the President, the Justice Department are all trying to get Hillary Clinton elected president.
One of our stories today is a Reuters report that apparently Comey revealed that they found, reportedly over 500,000 of these email on this Weiner laptop. And the day before, on Thursday, Comey met with Lynch. And Lynch said, if you release a letter to Congress, that violates policy, longstanding DOJ policy. And then he said, are you ordering me to keep this bombshell a secret? and she said nothing.
Yes, and the reason for that is because James Comey has a reputation of threatening to resign if he doesn't get his way. And can you imagine 7 days before the election if the director of the FBI resigned? I mean, this would throw the entire justice system into complete chaos.
And we opened this segment with some sound bites of Josh Earnest talking glowingly about Director Comey being a man of integrity. But in one of your earlier books, didn't Barack Obama regard appointing James Comey as the worst mistake of his presidency?
The worst mistake of my presidency. Now today, they're coming out and saying, oh, no, this guy has got complete integrity. Now, the president doesn't want to look as though he's interfering in the election either.
Right.
So this is a complete mess at the very top of our criminal justice system. I would call it a constitutional crisis in the making at this very moment.
Donald Trump said the same thing. All right, his big bestseller is called Guilty as Sin. Ed Klein, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Judge, good morning to you.
Morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
Man, you were fired up over the weekend.
Yeah, I was. I mean, you know, the clip that you played, when Jim Comey comes out and announces within 11 days of a federal election and one of the most historic elections of our time that he is reopening a criminal investigation, that is against Justice Department guidelines, FBI guidelines, and all that is fair and right.
So
he put his fingers on the scale. He's politicized the FBI and the Department of Justice.
But he
it's
found
wrong.
650. It's like finding a body in the street and saying, wait a second, I didn't find the body up until now.
Okay.
He found 650,000 emails. What do you expect him to do?
No kidding. Had he done a thorough investigation in the first place, he would have found this stuff. Had he done a thorough investigation, we wouldn't have been. We wouldn't have been. No, he should have taken Uma's joint laptop with her husband.
But
and don't give me this. Don't give me this hogwash, by the way, that it's just his. And yeah, of course her lawyer said. Are any defense attorneys going to say anything that is really truthful and that helps the truth-finding process?
Sure.
Here's the bottom line. The bottom line is this. This case should have been prosecuted. This is a violation in July. This is a violation of the federal laws. We all know that there was obstruction of justice. There was tampering. There was a destruction of no intent. Intent is not an element of the crime. I don't look. Jim Comey's a smart guy. That's why I'm so fired up. I work with him. I know him. This is not an intent crime, Jim. And, Jim, this is exactly the problem. Because she had this email server that is less secure than Gmail, not to trash Gmail, that's why this dirtbag pervert has our secrets on his laptop.
Alleged.
No, he is a pervert.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying he's a pedophile yet. Right. Okay, he's an alleged pedophile, but he is a pervert.
Am I the only one intimidated?
You know what? We had Ed Klein with us.
This is what he did for a living. No
wonder you host alone.
No, I know.
I've been getting yelled at. This is incredible. My son is clear for the first time all week.
Okay, Brian, how about you host with me this weekend?
I would love to do that.
Okay, this weekend, Bill Shine, Suzanne Scott, he wants to host with me.
Who are those people?
All right. Buckle yourself in.
The people who sign your check.
We just had Ed Klein on, who's written the book Guilty as Sin. Essentially what he said, according to his sources inside the FBI, very close to Comey, Comey really sees this, the Anthony Weiner thing, as a do-over because he feels so bad that he blew it in July.
Sure, it's a do-over. It gives him a chance it gives him a second bite at the apple. And with respect to the investigation, now he's got the ability to go forward, but he doesn't have the Department of Justice, Jim. Here's the mess up. DOJ told you not to do it, so how do you access a grand jury? Jim Comey's with the FBI. He doesn't call up and say, can you arrange a grand jury for me? We already know Loretta Lynch, who met with the husband of the target and who was promised to be AG if Hillary wins, is not going to give him a grand jury.
Can I give you the good news?
Is there any good news today?
Yes, they're going to find a way, but the Department of Justice, FBI, combining software, combining forces, they're going to get through most of these before election day.
And then what?
And then we're going to get the answer.
What, you really believe that?
Are you a superhero? Look at you.
Judge,
Are you going to fight for him?
ask you, what do you think about Donna Brazile? She was feeding these questions to Hillary Clinton before the debate in the primary. Now she resigned from CNN. CNN saying that, you know, they don't support it, what's going on. Do you think she needs to step down?
She needs to step down as the head of the DNC, just like her predecessor stepped down. And you know what? For all the trashing of WikiLeaks, at least we're getting some of the truth right now. Here you have a woman who pivots to, I'm a Christian woman, don't persecute me, and then doesn't tell the truth. All right? I mean, you've got Donna Brazile, who at least on 2 occasions got the questions in advance of a town hall or a debate, gives them to Hillary. Hillary then, you know, marches forward with an answer, and we're all like, oh, that's cool. That's cool. No, it isn't cool. Yeah. This is America. This is not, you know, some kind of, you know, it's not.
Banana Republic.
Banana Republic.
If you were CNN, you'd be upset right now.
CNN doesn't care. They said we felt uncomfortable. Really?
Sure.
How about you do an investigation? You find out where she got the question from, who gave her the question, when the question was gotten, and you go out and you apologize to your listeners and say this whole town hall was a fraud.
You know, if they did do an investigation, we really should hear from Jeff Zucker, who's the head guy over at CNN. He's the guy who actually hired her and ultimately had to fire her. What was going on there?
I don't know.
Or what about Bernie Sanders?
We don't know.
Bernie Sanders is still campaigning for her, even though it could have changed his fate.
You know, it's the millennials at this point who have an opportunity to make a statement. They got messed up in terms of their nomination going to Bernie, and now they got messed up again with Hillary Clinton getting the questions before the debates. Millennials are the one who really got taken here by the Democratic Party.
And he had much stronger African-American support than she did, and what they need from Bernie, the millennials and African-American support. You wonder if Bernie's going to say, I can't sleep at night knowing this whole game was rigged against me.
Or what if this were happening to the Republicans? What if Reince Priebus were giving questions to Donald Trump in advance?
You know what would happen. I mean, they would call for, you know, canceling the election. It's just, it is absurd what is going on. America has to step up. Millennials have to step up and say, you know what, you messed with us twice here with a primary and now in the general. Enough with you, Democrats. It's a corrupt party.
All right.
I think it's safe to say that no one got the questions in advance on the Republican side.
Yeah,
just judging by what we saw.
We didn't.
All right, Jeanine.
And that's the way it's supposed to be.
We're going to be watching your show this weekend.
When he co-hosts.
Well, it's going to be fantastic.
Of course, we're going to be there Saturday and Sunday.
Saturday and Sunday?
Yeah, you going to have a special too, both days?
I hope so.
Yeah.
He likes FaceTime.
He likes FaceTime?
He needs lots of
I'll give you all the FaceTime. Look at that smile.
There you go. All right.
I'm a little scared.
Judge, thank you very much.
I'm not making excuses. I've said it was a mistake and I regret it. And now they apparently want to look at emails of one of my staffers, and by all means, they should look at them. And I am sure they will reach the same conclusion they did when they looked at my emails for the last year. There is no case here.
Really? Yeah, one of my staffers. What's her name again? Uma Abedin? How do you say that?
Veterans, maybe?
Yeah, really? Is there really a case here or not?
South Carolina Republican Congressman Trey Gowdy, he chaired the House Select Committee on Benghazi that led to the Rose revelations. He joins us right now from South Carolina. Good morning to you, Congressman.
Good morning. How are y'all?
We're doing okay. Hillary Clinton is, despite the reported 500,000 north of that emails out there, she's blaming James Comey for this. Do you blame James Comey for these revelations?
Well, to the best of my recollection, Director Comey did not tell her to set up her own private email server. He did not tell her to lie about almost every aspect of the email. He didn't tell Uma Abedin not to turn over all of her devices, and he didn't tell Anthony Weiner to sex with underage girls. So I don't know how Jim Comey is responsible for any of this.
We're getting word this morning, according to Reuters, that Loretta Lynch, she does not want James Comey coming forward with this. She said it violates law and policy. So he allegedly said to her, are you ordering me to keep the new Clinton email bombshell a secret? Now, based on your experience, because you know these folks, did that happen?
I am sure that Loretta Lynch and Sally Yates, her top deputy, had a conversation with Comey, but the FBI director was given a 10-year gig for a reason. So he or she can be independent. And I could have sworn Loretta Lynch recused herself from this investigation because she met with Bill Clinton on the tarmac. So what in the world she's doing talking to Jim Comey about this investigation baffles me.
So, Congressman, you were out on Sunday. You're helping us out to define what this actually means. And, of course, here we are on Tuesday still talking about it. I was on radio yesterday with Congressman Jim Jordan, and he kind of surprised me. He came out and said, I think it was probably not the right thing to do for James Comey to come out like this close to the election. I know you guys are friends. How do you feel?
Well, we are friends. I love Jim Jordan, and he's a 3-time NCAA wrestling champion, so I would never disagree with him to his face. But we're 1,000 miles away from each other right now. I think Comey had an obligation. He told Congress the investigation was over. So new evidence came to light. He could have either sat on it and been criticized afterwards for not telling us, or he could have done the transparent thing and said, look, I'm notifying you. He didn't comment on the substance of the emails. He didn't even say that it's directly related to Secretary Clinton. He just said the investigation has reinitiated. So I viewed it as a notice document, and the timing, again, is not Jim Comey's fault. It is not his fault this is coming up a week or so before the election. That is Secretary Clinton's fault.
You know, in South Carolina, there's a saying, it all comes out in the wash. Remember being taught that?
Sure.
At least we were. And you're from South Carolina. I can't believe that all this has come forward, this latest investigation, because Anthony Weiner was sexting with some young girl. That could cost Hillary Clinton the election.
Well, that'd be ironic. Yesterday, she acted like she didn't know who Huma Abedin was, which is laughable. She has no closer aide than Huma Abedin. And by the way, these are not Huma Abedin's emails. I don't think anybody cares about her emails.
Right.
They would be emails that Secretary Clinton either authored or received.
Sure.
So these are not Huma Abedin's emails. These are Secretary Clinton's emails. So she can act like she doesn't know Huma, but we know better.
Sure, it all got backed up. It sounds like her smartphone backed up on that thing, and now she's going, I don't know how that happened. I got to ask you this. The letter that came out from the Department of Justice yesterday, that they would be working with the FBI to try to sort through this stuff as quickly as possible, although, you know, they're not going to be able to do it before the election. It was signed by a fellow by the Assistant Attorney General Peter Kadzik, I believe. I was noticing on some of the blogs this morning, they say this particular guy is actually a close friend of John Podesta, who's the chairman of Hillary's campaign. Do you see the possibility of politics working into this?
Well, in the interest of full disclosure, I have had many, many differences with Peter Kadzik, both publicly and privately, but I actually don't think it's a problem. For this reason, Peter Kadzik doesn't make these decisions. They're made at the top of the DOJ. I've been very critical of the politicization of the DOJ. Right. I think it is terrible the Department of Justice has been politicized, but Peter Kadzik is not a decision maker. He is a messenger.
Right. And Congressman, just get us clear on this. Intent seems to be the big word. The intent doesn't matter when it comes to a guy on a nuclear submarine taking a picture to tell his parents what he was doing when he's at sea. Intent didn't matter with General Cartwright. Does intent matter? If Hillary Clinton didn't intend to violate security procedures, does that matter?
No, and that was my whole point of difference with Director Comey. Had Congress intended to require specific intent, we would not have used the phrase gross negligence. Those are two different standards. So Congress intentionally used the phrase gross negligence. He said extreme carelessness. They mean the exact same thing. An intent to harm the country is what we call treason. So we wanted to criminalize conduct below treason. Just simply being grossly negligent with our nation's secrets is a crime. So, again, I disagreed sharply with Director Comey when he read that element into the offense. So I have been critical of him in the past. I have been supportive of him in the past, depending on the facts.
And you support this move?
I think he had no choice but to notify Congress that his previous testimony had changed.
All right. Congressman Trey Gowdy, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you all.
All right.
After your big night last night with your cute kids?
We had fun.
How was Halloween?
Oh, it was great. We had Darth Vader and another character whose name I can't remember from like the recent Star Wars. There we are. And then we had the vampirist, and I have newfound respect for all of our makeup people at Fox after trying to apply to Maria some ghoulish white on her face. I mean, it was quite something. I didn't get the blood right, but we had fun nonetheless.
You know, Laura, I'm always amazed. Now, one costume is usually not enough. Now they have to have one for school.
Right.
They have to have one for one for the party.
They're saying, yeah.
Right?
You know, we had it so bad when I was a kid. Don't you love these stories? We were always bums. When you could say the term bum,
Hobos.
was like, Yeah, remember? We were a bum. What are you this year? A bum. And that's what we were.
All right, Laura, let's talk about some of the news of the day. Reuters is reporting this morning that Attorney General Loretta Lynch, she told James Comey when he said, I'm going to send this letter to Congress, when he talked with her last Friday, I'm going to send this letter to Congress. She said it violates department policy, and then he says to her, are you ordering me to keep this a secret? What a bombshell.
Yeah, it certainly is. And first of all, everyone should understand the policy is guidance. These are guidelines. And the guidelines instruct that you shouldn't be timing your investigation to affect the outcome of the election. Now, anyone who thinks that Comey is out there calculating when to release information to affect the outcome of the election, then what was he doing when he did his press conference to say that there was no reasonable prosecutor could find grounds for an indictment on a crime? So all of this is just ridiculous. It's guidelines. And that's why President Obama came out yesterday and said that he has faith in Comey's integrity, and he didn't find that he was trying to affect the election, which was very interesting. Didn't get enough coverage about how Obama did praise Jim Comey. Very interesting.
I loved it. At least you're staying consistent, unlike every other Democrat out there. And if you look at what Donald Trump said, he said, listen, I don't agree with what he said in July. I thank him for reversing himself here in this case. He's not saying what I said in July was incorrect. He thinks that James Comey did the right thing now. The other thing I think is fascinating is the Justice Department is combining forces with the FBI, I guess reluctantly, and they are going to do their best to get through the 650,000 before Election Day. I mean, you think that Friday was dramatic. When we start hearing about hits, perhaps, in her emails, this is going to be unbelievable.
A source of mine who just retired from the CIA with still good contacts in the FBI said that when they first looked at the documents, it was very likely that just with the metadata that they were able to see in the computer hard drive, that they could of course see that a lot of the email had come from the private server of the Clintons, and that it was likely to be thousands of classified documents on that server. Now, indeed, some of them may have been duplicates. But there is no doubt that, in my mind, with my previous experience in the law, there is no doubt in my mind that the federal prosecutors looking at this, investigators looking at this, saw something fairly dramatic. I mean, it wasn't just seeing like, hey, how you doing? Go great. Yoga class go well? Yeah. How's your daughter's wedding? No. That's not what they saw. The metadata allows them to see a lot more than we're led to believe.
And they can digest 50 to 75 per hour, and if they have, and they can cull down from 650 to 10 to 20,000. The Wall Street Journal has a whole breakdown. There's really a lot of hope. They got to get to the bottom of this quickly.
Yeah, well, again, we'll see. What I found stunning yesterday is so many of our colleagues in the media, who are supposed to be objective journalists, they covered this thing, and I know you guys did some of this earlier, they covered this as a Comey scandal. This is all about the conundrum for Jim Comey. It was unbelievable. If you just swap out Hillary Clinton's name and you put Donald Trump's name in the same set of facts, they would be treating this like a political Armageddon. But once again, the media show us exactly where their allegiances lie, which is with the Democrat Party. It's been obscene how they've turned on Comey to such a flagrant degree when even the president said, I don't think that's what Comey was doing. I think he doesn't question Comey's integrity in this investigation.
And to the point that Donald Trump has been making, that the system is rigged, and combining it with the media, as it turns out, now thanks to WikiLeaks, we're discovering that Donna Brazile, who is the interim head of the DNC, apparently has been feeding lines from debates and to town forums to Hillary Clinton. Donna Brazile got fired. Apparently, it's just being revealed right now by CNN. But, it's curious. Some people are calling for an investigation. How does this happen at CNN? It would be nice to hear from Jeff Zucker, the guy who is in charge over at CNN, to figure out, okay, if this happened with Donna Brazile, is it happening with anybody else?
Well, this confirms what many of us have believed for some time, that networks like CNN have ceased being again, an arbiter of objective truths, to the extent they ever were. And they are essentially operating as Hillary super PACs. Yeah. That's what happened with Brazile. I mean, she answered Megyn Kelly. When Megyn Kelly asked her that question, she got all indignant. You know, how dare, you know, basically, how dare you ask a question about
I'm a Christian, and I know what it's like to be persecuted.
Please. Yeah, and she said similar things. She gave the big stiff arm to Bret Baier. And when Bret Baier asked her the same question, she started calling him Boo-Boo. I didn't understand that, but he became Boo-Boo in that interview.
Boo-Boo Bear.
Yeah, Boo-Boo. Yeah. Oh, I get it. Okay,
yeah,
see, I'm a
Bear.
little slow.
Hello.
Yeah, a little slow with the yogi references. So she just put it off, and then the rest of the people in the media just like, oh, Donna, isn't she wonderful? Now, Donna Brazile, I do like Donna Brazile. You can't help but like Donna Brazile. But this is ridiculous. I mean, there should be a full-fledged investigation at CNN for the fact that they apparently have questions floating around that can be emailed from one to the next.
I'm going to give you a hypothetical that you could really embrace. What if Ted Cruz found out that Donald Trump was getting the questions ahead of time? Do you think, even though we're in the backstretch, do you think for a second there wouldn't be a press conference in Texas talking about how Reince Priebus set up Donald Trump?
Oh, yeah. The double standards here are just huge.
But Bernie has no pride, I guess. He doesn't want to stand up for the people that followed him around the country.
Donald Trump says he would get the electric chair if Reince Priebus were giving him the questions.
Yeah, well, I think Bernie Sanders is going around the country talking about how all the billionaires are out there for Trump. I'm like, what? All the billionaires are for Hillary. What are you talking about?
Billionaires hate Trump.
If you watch mainstream media this morning, they're not really talking about the Hillary Clinton email thing. They're saying there's no case there. They're talking about how Donald Trump is linked to Russia. But if you look at the New York Times this morning, we were all looking at this. That story, there's a story that says the FBI sees no clear link linking Donald Trump to Russia. But you won't find that article on the front page, Laura.
Oh, what a shock.
You will find
it.
What page number? A21.
11.
Oh, yeah.
This is the headline.
21.
Investigating Trump, FBI sees no clear link to Russian government.
Right. And the
you
story...
See, that's just the FBI. The FBI is in cahoots with the KGB, which is in cahoots with the Republicans. That's what James Carville was sputtering on MSNBC. It's so bad that James Carville is attacking poor Thomas Roberts on MSNBC, who I don't think is a big Trump fan, but he was actually accusing Tom Roberts of like doing the bidding for Trump yesterday on television. This is craziness.
But this other story about Trump. In the 90s crisis, Trump used a tax tactic now banned. Not banned then, but let's focus on the 1990s.
Okay, so there's a little media bias out there. Laura, before you go, because we're 7 days out, obviously right now, given this news of the day, Trump is surging. What happens?
I think Trump is going to win a few states that right now nobody predicts he's going to win. I think it could be an outlier state. You know what I'm going to do, just for my old Connecticut roots. Connecticut is in terrible shape. They've had some terrible governance with Governor Malloy, lost GE, and so forth. I'm saying that Connecticut, I know this is an outlier, but I'm just Connecticut.
Crazy.
You need change. I know it's crazy, but I'm just going to say. But I'm going to give an example. A state like Connecticut, perhaps a Wisconsin, maybe even what's happened with the Obamacare premiums in Minnesota. I think there's going to be one or two states, maybe not none of those three, but one or two states which people really haven't gotten a lot of focus are going to go for Trump.
Does he win?
If that happens, yes. And I think Trump in the end can win this, but he has to play this. He has to play this KGB scandal right.
If Donald Trump wins, the first thing you're going to hear is from the Democrats is this thing is rigged, and the electoral process is flawed, and the Russians have stolen our voting machines.
Yes, that's going to. That will be the next day's headline for sure, guys.
Thank you, Laura. You are on the home stretch. In 8 days, you can start to sleep.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you.
Joining us right now from Janesville, Wisconsin, is the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan. Good morning to you, Mr. Ryan.
Good morning, Speaker.
Good morning, Steve. How you doing? Hey, Ainsley, Brian, how you doing?
We're all doing great. Thank you very much. I know this has been a crazy election year, and, you know, you've had some ups and downs with Donald Trump. We're 1 week out. Where do you stand on voting for Donald Trump and endorsing Donald Trump? And how should that impact all Republicans and independents and Democrats watching right now?
Well, I stand where I stood all fall and all summer. In fact, I already voted here in Janesville for our nominee last week in early voting. We need to support our entire Republican ticket. Here's the other thing I'd say. For those of us who lived through the 1990s, Steve, it's sort of a feeling of deja vu. And the point I keep trying to make to younger voters who did not live through the 1990s, this is what life with the Clintons looks like. It's always a scandal, one after another. Then there's an investigation. And what happens, Steve, is you never know what's coming next. They live beyond the rules, and they live to work the system to help themselves, to help Clinton Incorporated. And so they can win, and she could come in with a Democrat Congress, the worst of all possible things, if Republicans do not turn out and do not vote.
So you voted for Donald Trump, and you're encouraging Republicans and Democrats and independents, anybody who will listen, to vote for Donald Trump to stop what you're talking about with the Clinton corruption.
I am supporting our entire Republican ticket. I have been all along. What my focus, which has not changed at all, my focus personally right now is saving our House majority. I'm going to Indiana, Michigan, New York, and Virginia today to fight for House Republicans to make sure we keep this majority. But we've got to win the tables. Look, here's the point. I would ask everybody, go to better.gop if you want to take a look at what a unified Republican government can get you. Take a look at these ideas and see what a Republican government can get you. If we don't win the White House, if we don't win Congress, we don't get this. We get Clinton's scandal. She will come in just like Barack Obama did, but with all her scandal baggage, and I don't think that's what the American people want to see.
Now, Speaker, before you leave your state this morning, Donald Trump and Scott Walker will be there. They're going to be campaigning in your state. Will you be with them?
No, I just heard about it about 10 minutes ago, actually. I didn't know that. I'm on my way right now to Indiana with one of our members running there. Then I'm going to Michigan. Then I'm going to New York, then Virginia. I'm just crisscrossing the country right now, fighting for congressional Republicans.
Have you changed
Which is my primary responsibility, as you know, Ainsley.
Sure.
You did say that you weren't going to campaign with him. Have you changed your position on that? Will you be campaigning for him or with him over the next week?
No, I haven't changed anything. I'm just focusing on my primary responsibility, which is saving our House majority. I've already got a long schedule that has been long in place, fighting for House Republicans and also Senate Republicans, because that's what the Speaker of the House does. My job is to make sure Nancy Pelosi does not return as Speaker of the House. And it's to also help all Republicans make sure they go vote, turn out, and that helps every Republican up and down the ticket.
Right. So one of the things that most political experts would say that Republicans should emphasize is the collapse of Obamacare and the way the rates have been jacked up, ironically, in some key battleground states. But the comeback was, well, the Republicans don't have anything. They want to take all your insurance away. Mr. Speaker, you have an answer to that.
Can I bring this back in the shot? Can you see this?
There it is.
we actually have a full Obamacare replacement plan. Go to better.gop, read it for yourself. All 247 House Republicans have put it out there for the world to see. We've worked with our nominee on this and all these other ideas. So we have shown you what real patient-centered health care looks like. We don't have to live with Obamacare. We can have something much better. It's patient-centered health care. You choose what you want for you and your family. More choice, more competition, lower prices, better access. Obamacare is collapsing under its own weight. We can and will replace it if we win this election.
How does that plan line up with Donald Trump and his plan?
They're virtually at one and the same. Okay. We've talked with Donald all year long on these things. Same with tax reform, same with all these other ideas. Same with moving people from welfare to work. Same with rebuilding national security, securing the border. The point is, a unified Republican government can fix our big country's problems. A Hillary Clinton government will not fix our problems, and you'll just have scandal and baggage coming into the White House.
Mr. Speaker, I think it was the 27th, Politico had this story how there's a push with the Freedom Caucus to remove you as Speaker afterwards. When there was some pressure on you, evidently, to leave as leader of the convention, you said, no problem, I'll leave if you want me to. Is that how you feel also as Speaker? If the Republicans don't want you, no problem?
Yeah, look, I serve at the pleasure of our members. I feel very good where I am. I think I've done a lot. I've actually kept to my word. We have offered a very bold agenda. Nobody has done more to help raise money for our House Republicans and get us in a position to win. I'm crisscrossing this country, working for our members. We're all focused on beating Democrats on November the 8th. All the rest of this stuff will sort itself out. I'm very confident where I stand with our members. And I, of course, as Speaker of the House, you serve at the pleasure of your conference, which I'm happy to serve.
But you like this job more than you thought?
Yeah, actually, I do. I do, because I think you can make a big difference. You can make a big change. And what I like is the idea of putting these ideas into law in 2017. What I don't like is this idea of a Clinton scandal government coming in and just doubling down on where Obama was taking the country. 70% of the American people, Brian, they don't like the direction America's going. Electing Hillary Clinton will take us in the same direction, but with scandals. I don't think people want to see that happen. That's why I think we have to turn out and vote, change the direction of this country. And I'm excited to be a part of that.
All right. Thank you, Speaker, for being with us this morning.
happens? Let's say she wins. Let's say she becomes president. I mean, how would the FBI
Well, you've
deal
already
with
mentioned one of the consequences, which is I don't know how Loretta Lynch survives this. I mean, I don't know. She's already conflicted herself out of this investigation by the, really stupid political blunder of meeting with former President Bill Clinton, which was a catastrophically and a colossally stupid decision.
She's not stupid. Why would she do that?
Well, I don't know what happened exactly. No one really knows. I mean, we don't know exactly the circumstances that she was confronted with, but that should never have happened.
It was a meeting with, wait. It was the meeting with President Clinton. It was the fact that they did not impanel a grand jury in this investigation in the first place. It's the fact that she let Jim Comey go out in front of the American people when it's her decision to make, to decide whether to indict or not, or whether to charge or not.
Well,
she pressured him.
She completely passed the buck, because really what should have happened, either she can make the decision, or if she's conflicted, it should go to the next in line, which would ordinarily be the Deputy Attorney General. What she effectively did is just stood back and let Director Comey take the heat, and now he's taking the heat.
But also the Department of Justice pressured him. You have to imagine there must have been an incredible amount of pressure around him not to recommend charges at that time. And then in the following months, he's watching all of this. He's watching Hillary Clinton say, well, Jim Comey said I was innocent. Jim Comey said this. That probably enraged him.
And now
as well.
the Justice Department is trying to shut him up.
Right.
So,
well,
look, Jim Comey's smart enough to know that he's going to figure out through this whole thing that the one thing that's going to happen is he's going to survive this. Some other people are not going to survive
and the root of this seems to be
Washington.
The Clinton Foundation, which Devlin Barrett's reporting in the Wall Street Journal points to. There are 4 field offices investigating the Clinton Foundation, and they went to Justice and said, we want to impanel a grand jury, we want subpoena power, and Justice said no, and they continued to pursue it. This investigation, even without those powers, continued to investigate, and people at Justice are PO'd about it.
Yep.
Does there need to be an independent investigator at this point? It's such a political mess.
Well, there is an independent investigator. That's Jim Comey. The question is whether or not there should be what is the functional equivalent now of an independent counsel, and that would be a regulatory special counsel called for and appointed by the Attorney General of the United States. That's what would happen. Now, if we get to a situation where Hillary Clinton's elected president, this is what's going to be left for the next administration to have to face. Can you imagine what a confirmation hearing is going to be like for the next Attorney General of the United States? And all these questions are going to come up about, what are you going to do now with regard to this pending investigation?
So
this is trouble.
The other thing is that, I mean, Jim Comey knows the seriousness of this, obviously. He's not going to stop the presses and make sure the world knows this is what he's doing unless there is some kind of a smoking gun there. I mean, do you believe that they haven't seen any of these emails, or do you think that there was,
I don't know about a smoking gun, but I suspect, given the numbers that we're talking about,
650,000,
that there are going to be email that are found in that trove that is part of that hard drive that were not turned over to the Justice Department. And if that's so, that's a problem for somebody.
Problem for Hillary Clinton, you would think.
Well, it's a problem for Abedin. It's a problem for other people. And it's also, there may be some pretty candid discussions that are found on those emails that are going to present some questions for people about what their intent was. Remember, Director Comey said that the problem was, although, he acknowledged that this was extremely careless, his finding was that there wasn't sufficient evidence of criminal intent. And the question is whether or not any of those emails tend to answer that question. That would be sufficient to reopen an investigation and make a renewed decision about whether or not somebody should be held to account criminally for what happened.
So, in other words, the intent to hide something about the Clinton Foundation or to hide something about whatever, behavior around Benghazi.
Either obstruction of the investigation based upon decisions whether or not to withhold information, or also intent at the time. In other words, did you know that the email that you were reviewing contained classified information? If any information on the trove of emails answers that question, that's significant.
Robert Ray, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will see you soon, sir. Joining us now to talk about that is former Massachusetts Senator Scott Brown. Senator, good to see you.
Good to see you, Maria.
Your take on the polls. You think this is a direct reaction to the FBI reopening its investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails, or is Donald Trump doing better? How do you read it?
Well, I think it's a combination of both. And I remember being on your show a couple of months ago saying, listen, this thing is far from over. And that's when Donald Trump was basically, it seemed to be on the slide. And you have a week left, as you've talked about. And I still don't think it's over. You may see a little bit of fluctuation. But right now, the momentum is definitely on Donald Trump's side. And Hillary Clinton is reeling. And what you're seeing now is the mainstream media, a lot of the super PACs, a lot of the special interest groups trying to kind of prop her up and kind of, thrashing out and throwing things to see what's going to stick.
Yeah, and yet the New York Times this morning, well, they're working overtime to try to
of course they are.
damage Donald Trump. But today their big story is in a 90s crisis, Trump used a tax tactic now banned. What's your take on these questions surrounding Donald Trump's taxes? According to this report from the Times, he avoided paying potentially hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes in ways that his own lawyers considered questionable. What's your reaction?
Well, first of all, I think Dagan or Morgan actually said, at this point, really, who cares? Because there is a mechanism in this country where you can actually pay more taxes, not only federally but statewide. And a lot of the people that are complaining never do that. Of course you don't. You want to pay as little in taxes to the federal government as possible because you know that they waste our money. Now, if he's done something wrong, he said forever that he's been audited. If they found something, they would have obviously fined him and maybe even done something a little bit worse, but they didn't. So at that time, he was apparently following the law, and I encourage everybody to follow our tax code, and they should maximize it as well and as great as they can, because the federal government is not a good steward of your money. And if Congress wanted to change it, or if Bernie or Hillary wanted to change it, as Donald Trump said, they could have done it any time, and they've done nothing.
Yeah.
Hey, Scott, it's good to see you,
I dig it.
Senator. But given the way that this presidential election season has gone, are you worried that there's going to be another bomb that goes off that's planted by the Clinton campaign about Donald Trump? And I don't mean a lengthy, detailed article from the New York Times about a tax strategy, but I mean something much bigger with a big banner headline, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I've run, as you know, 21 races, and there's nothing that surprises me at this point because it's happened to me. It's going to happen to others. I think, as Morgan said, there's still other things that may come out with WikiLeaks with regard to Clinton. And at this point, it's going to be really, really tough to stop the Donald Trump momentum because of everything you're seeing that's happening. And to think that Director Comey isn't just doing his job, and all of a sudden, last week, or a couple of weeks ago, he was great. The Democrats loved him. And now, all of a sudden, he's not great. Listen, he's doing his job, and I'm thankful that he is doing his job. And I don't care if it's 45 seconds before the polls close. He needs to do his job, and I commend him for that. So, of course, anything can happen, Dagan. I wouldn't be surprised, but at this point, people kind of recognize Donna Brazile got the questions. Hillary Clinton has been lying. Her staff's been lying. You know, this intersection of money and politics, this set of rules for them and a set of rules for everybody else. At this point, I'm not sure if they're going to believe what the Clinton campaign is going to say.
Yep.
Are there enough undecided voters at this point for Trump to pull ahead? We just saw this ABC poll where he's ahead, but in most of the others, the latest Real Clear Politics is he's 2.5 behind. He's closing the gap. Can he do this in a week's time?
Well, don't forget that Real Clear Politics is a combination of polls. They're seeing a lot of the polls that are going to come out. The first one you just saw, where he's surging ahead, and the other ones are going to start to come out based on what happened with obviously the FBI reopening the investigation. And Director Comey, by the way, he's not stupid, and he didn't fall off the turnip truck yesterday. He's doing this because he's doing his job. So yes, I think he can continue with the momentum, and I know for a fact, and you all do too, because you have people come up to you going like, hey, don't tell anybody I'm voting for Donald Trump everywhere I go. And the most unusual people, they're not traditional Republicans or traditional like Trump voters. And even as Morgan said, a lot of the never Trumpers are saying, yeah, there's no way I want Hillary Clinton in the White House because they don't trust her, they don't like her, and they see 4 to 8 more years of litigation and problems versus going in a new direction, giving a guy a shot and see what happens, surrounding himself with good people and change the direction of this country.
Well, you're right. I mean, people are willing to make a bet on the unknown. of Donald Trump because they see all of this corruption. But the truth is Trump is fighting, what, everybody. He's fighting the Clinton machine, he's fighting the media, he's even fighting the GOP. Let's talk about his former primary rival, Ohio Governor John Kasich. He's officially cast his ballot. Yesterday, he voted for the 2008 Republican nominee, Senator John McCain, instead of Trump. Does that say anything about this election? What does that tell you, that he voted for John McCain?
Listen, I know Governor Kasich. I love him, and I love Senator McCain. Both really powerful, strong people. But he might as well vote for Terry Francona, the manager of the Indians, because what happens is that's a vote for Hillary Clinton. And I think it's a cop-out. I've said it before. I'm saying it now. And I hope the people of Ohio finally say, you know what, we have a chance to change the direction of this country, especially when it's coming, when you're talking about the coal miners, the industrial workers, the corporations and businesses in Ohio that have really been devastated by a lot of the Obamacare, by a lot of the regulations by the EPA and others. I'm kind of disappointed in him. You know, when we were at the conventions, even though he wasn't there in Cleveland, he was all throughout the building talking to the media and this and that. I thought it was a cop-out. I'm disappointed, and I think a lot of other people are too, because a vote for anyone else, whether it's John Stark, whether it's Bill Clinton, whether it's anyone you don't like, it's still a vote for Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Well, it was extraordinary that the convention was in his state and he didn't show up.
Yeah, and he lobbied for it, remember, Maria? And he was all throughout that building doing interviews. Yeah. And when people said, oh, why aren't you here? He could have at least been there to help Governor Pence, who is a great guy and who's done incredible work for the Trump team, and I think is a reflection of the cabinet that you're ultimately going to see is a guy like Governor Pence.
Senator, good to see you. Thanks so much. Scott Brown joining us there. Just
Thanks,
ahead.
guys.
Joining us right now, prominent litigator, former Whitewater Independent Counsel, Robert Ray. Robert, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning.
Your reaction to all of this?
Any accusation that Director Comey violated the Hatch Act is baloney. And the contention by this group of 100 former federal prosecutors that Director Comey has acted improperly is also similarly ridiculous. You know, what people don't want to accept is that when it comes to investigating presidents or potential presidents, the rules don't quite apply like they do to everybody else. And people have a hard time accepting that, but it's true. We live in a democracy, after all, and he's got an obligation to make sure that facts that are relevant to the decision about who we should be electing president of the United States are disclosed to the public prior to the election.
I agree with you, and more so during a moment in time where we are 11 days away, which was 11 days. Now, obviously, we're a week away from the election, because the bottom line is Jim Comey testified, and he said this investigation is closed. Then, months later, he finds this new information. He felt that he needed to actually tell Congress, and the American people, you need to know this is actually not closed. And even though I said that, now we have new information.
And look, I believe strongly in this, and there are people on both sides of the political divide, of course, who feel strongly the other way. But I mean, I don't agree with Eric Holder. I don't agree with Alberto Gonzales. I don't agree with Mike Chertoff. The only person who made any sense out of all this was Bill Barr, the former Attorney General of the United States, who said that Director Comey essentially was left with no choice. And any argument that he's acted improperly is really a consequence of the fact that, as far as Hillary Clinton is concerned, it's a self-inflicted wound.
Explain the Hatch Act. You say it's baloney that he violated. Explain what it says and why it's baloney that he did anything
wrong. Well, the
wrong
Hatch Act gets to questions about, people making decisions who are, in government, making partisan political decisions. And, it's a ridiculous notion. He's the FBI director. He's appointed to a 10-year term. It's intended for the FBI director by Congress that he be independent. That's the whole purpose. The reason his term is 8 years is that it extends beyond the term of any president.
If the American people had found out about these devices and these 650,000 emails after the election, he would have been accused of a cover-up.
Absolutely. If he had done nothing and had sat on this, everybody would be screaming bloody murder about the fact that the public was entitled to know about this information. It wasn't disclosed, and they made a decision about voting for president without full information. Well, hello, we live in a democracy. Get over it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So beyond pressing charges, when you look at Hillary Clinton and her top aides, 293,000 were classified emails, 193 were classified at the time. I could go on and on. So I understand that the director doesn't think that he can press charges. He made that clear. But what could and should happen to Hillary Clinton or her top aides, if nothing's going to happen to her, for the fact that they did violate security information of the United States? It was passed outside of government channels, into private channels, into people that did not have security clearances. So what can be done absent of pressing charges?
Well, I mean, I think the people of the country need to make a decision about who they want to be president and whether this sort of behavior is, tolerated. We're going to find out, I would think, fairly soon enough whether any of the email that's recoverable from this laptop was email that was not disclosed to investigators previously. If they already disclosed it, then there's nothing that Hillary Clinton and her aides have to worry about, and it should have been disclosed in the first place. If they didn't disclose it and it was withheld and it's now found on the laptop, somebody's got some explaining to do.
But you don't think anyone should lose a clearance? Right? There should be no ramification. These people should be allowed to work in the White House after handling classified information.
Well,
I'm not talking about Hillary Clinton. I'm talking about the top aides.
No, your point is that it's not just about prosecution and whether or not there's a case to be made. There are consequences civilly and then also with regard administratively regarding, background clearances and so on and so forth. Look, this investigation has consequences one way or the other, whether Hillary Clinton is or is not elected president. If she's elected president, this investigation sounds like it's going to survive the decision, and it means like it's going to go into the next administration and something's going to be done about it.